Thumbs and Phases Circle Technique video number 1. The purpose of these videos is to demonstrate how exceedingly easy it is to use the Thumbs and Phases compositional technique, the circle technique. I chose the circle technique to begin this series of videos because it was the first compositional technique I evolved using the Newtonal principle about 30 years ago, and it's also the most accessible, it's the easiest to use. In fact, as I say, it is exceedingly easy to use. Now, before I get on to specifics, I thought it would be a good idea to just go over the basic Newtonal principle. Some people will be familiar with this from the thesis, but we'll just go over the basic principles. Music dictionaries are fairly well useless when it comes to definitions of atonality in terms of the way those definitions pertain to practical compositional techniques. What we need is a universal definition of atonality. But it turns out that you can't have a universal definition of tonality unless you first have a universal definition of tonality, because the two forces are diametrically opposed and one precedes the other. And there is a great definition of tonality which can be universally applied. Tonality is what happens when we bring consonance and dissonance, two diametrically opposed forces, together, and we explore the relationship between these two forces. Tonality is an artificially created condition in an evolved language. Tonality, consonance and dissonance, none of these exist in nature. There's no such thing as a tonal sound in nature. There's no such thing as a consonant sound in nature, or a dissonant sound. These are concepts that we have invented. They are completely artificial. So that's it. When you bring consonance and dissonance together, you create this third state, tonality. If we now get rid of consonance and dissonance, we have created a condition whose nature is now diametrically opposed to tonality, and this we can call atonality, and that's our definition of atonality. So atonality and tonality are two new forces that are diametrically opposed to one another. If we now bring these two forces together and we explore the relationship between these two things, we create a fifth state, which I have called Newtonality. You can call it what you like. I call it Newtonality because I have a minor obsession with Isaac Newton, and it just seems it's just a good word. It's a nice little word. It describes this fifth state in a particularly apposite way. As far as I'm concerned, Newtonality exists as a fact of human language in the same way that consonance and dissonance, tonality and atonality do. So it's not a case of I invented this. This is just something that happens because of the evolution of the musical language. Okay, so that's the basic definition of Newtonality. So to get to specifics, the circle technique, what we need is three phases of music, which I have designated by the Greek letters, the A phase, the B phase and the D phase. The A phase is the tonal phase, the B phase is the atonal phase, and the D phase is the intermediate phase. Alpha, beta, delta. Not gamma, delta. Delta for D. Why D? Because D stands for the word determination. You see, the D phase represents the coming together and the exploration of the flux, the tension between these two forces. This flux and tension can be explored and manipulated in exactly the same way that consonance and dissonance are explored and manipulated in tonal music. The principle is exactly the same. The palette is broader, but the principle is identical. Now, what we need is musical material from which we can construct these phases. And this musical material is represented by Thomes, and Thomes are represented in their turn by these small letters A, B and D. So A phase is represented by A Thomes, B phase represented by B Thomes, and D by the D Thomes. And it's as simple as that. This we call the first order of coincidence. And there are the two circles. There's the outer circle representing the phases, and there's the inner circle representing the Thomes. That's the first order of coincidence. Now, as you may imagine, there are two other orders of coincidence, but we don't need to discuss those at all at this stage. So how we come up with the thumb material and how this is applied to the phases, this will be the subject of the next video.